What's up, y'all? Welcome to another video. Once again, before I get started, go ahead and hit that like or dislike and please subscribe. In this video, I'm going to break down how I got released from prison on the Fluke. So let me tell y'all what I mean. Now, I mentioned this before, but if it's your first time seeing my video, I discharged the P number, which is in California State Prison, CDC. And the P number is a old number, not to me, but when I say P number, people say that's an old number, and I guess it is, because now they on double letters, even though I said P number, but that's what we say. But anyway, and that's funny. But again, yeah, that was my last prison. Hold on. Yeah, that was my last prison bid, although I did do some state bids after that, but and you'll see why. But you know the laws changed or whatever. And I was in Santa Rita. I told a story about that Rita thing too. You go ahead and watch that. But anyway, let me break it down. So like I said, this was my last prison bid, and I was doing a violation, a year flat violation. Now, due to my controlling case, I didn't get half time. So usually when people do parole violations, you know, they get half. So whatever you get sentenced to, and at that time it was up to a year, you get half. And back then they had Morrissey, the parole board or whatnot. And I'm gonna break a little bit. I'm gonna elaborate more on that too in this video. But anyway, I got a year flat violation. My controlling case was robbery, so I didn't get half. So anyway, so all my prison violations was flat time. So anyway, so I get sent to DVI. Now at this time, DVI, which is Dual Vocational Institution in Tracy, one of the legendary prisons in California. They got plenty of them out here. We do, but that's the original Gladiator School. So at the time I went, DVI was the reception center because DVI was the reception center. And prior to that, Quentin was the reception center. Prior to that, it was Vacaville. Then I think it was Quentin. But anyway, this was during the time when DVI was a reception center. So by being a reception center, it had a real small main line. They had lifers there. They had a ranch there, and it had a real, like I said, a real small main line, which ended up being some dorms. It was like 2 dorms. Now when I got there, and yeah, if y'all want to know anything about DVI, the water is brown. And I did a whole year and some change for them to tell a story more there. And every time when you hit the water, you gotta let it run, whether you're taking a shower, anything. And that's the truth. So anyway, so I'm in DVI, so I'm in reception. And at that time, it was a big riot between, I think, the brothers and the Southsiders in this small main line in the dorm area. It was like a 40-minute ride or something. And at this time, I was in the reception. So everything was locked down or whatever for a good little while. And in the reception, they got the little wings. Now, the DVI looked like Soledad. And I've been to Soledad too. So they look like the same. A lot of prisons kind of look the same, like a lot of level 4s, like Pelican Bay and Salinas Valley, they all look the same. So I guess, on the side note, y'all, they built them 2 prisons around the same time, I guess, and they was making prisons that look like that, just on the side note. But anyway, so I'm in DVI or whatnot. I'm doing the year flat violation, so I end up getting endorsed there. So when you're in reception, they usually tell you, when you see your counselor, they usually tell you which prison you're going to end up going to. And it's usually going to be 2 prisons they give you a choice. And it don't be what you pick. I mean, some people would do, but it don't be. Now, at that time, they told me, where did they say I was going? They didn't actually. Now that I remember, I got endorsed there, which was like, I'm like, hell no, because everything you hear about DVI wasn't cool as far as the treatment, and it wasn't. So anyway, it was a real small main line, like I said. It was just a big riot. Now, DVI got a big yard, but the yard wasn't open since it was a small main line, and I had a ranch there. I wasn't at the ranch because at this point I was like a level 2. So anyway, then they had like an H unit, which was a main line, a small main line. Then they had like L3 where all the lifers was at. So anyway, I'm in DVI now. DVI was cool. Ended up working at the law library. Now at this time, this is when, like I call it, parole, the board of prison terms was kidnapping fools. So apparently what was going on, and this was actually going on back when I was doing the bid before that in Soledad, when I think I may have mentioned this, the Valdivia versus Davis, Governor Gray Davis, and this is one of the reasons why they got him up out of there real quick. And then Arnold took over on Schwarzenegger, then it became Valdivia versus Schwarzenegger. So basically what would end up going on, because I was working in DVI at the law library at this time, so you got a lot of people coming in different time, or whatever, from reception or whatnot, and they want to see what's going on with their case. And so again, what was going on was when you get violated, I mentioned before, you go to Morrissey and screening and all that from the county. So what end up happening is when they'll violate you, they'll basically kidnap you. So when people start filing certain paperwork with the courts, like the writs, certain writs of habeas corpus or whatnot, the courts really have no collection. They didn't even know you was in custody. They like, what, so that and some other stuff, foul play that was going on, caused a lot of disturbance. So that's why they had to override the whole thing. So anyway, while I was there, DVI was cool. I got some more stories about DVI. So again, I mentioned jail is boring as hell. So me, I end up, again, I mentioned this before, I ended up start doing the Pruno. Now, being that it was a small main line, I wasn't like the Pruno man. I was just making it more or less for consumption, and then I may trade some of it, but most of it was just really consumption. Now, on a bigger main line, I probably would have had it popping like when I did in Soledad or whatever, and I used to make a lot of batches. So on this yard, I only had like maybe 2 different batches going at one time because there really wasn't too many tuck spots. So one day I'm coming home from from work or whatever, getting back to the little dorm or whatever. And again, like I said, it was 2 dorms. It used to be Y and Z dorm. Now during the riot or whatever, they shut down Y dorm, so it was only Z dorm. And I mentioned before, we didn't go to the yard. I think I was down maybe 7-8 months. We finally opened the yard up, and by that point, it wasn't. People was already programmed in. You may go out. It wasn't really nothing. Wasn't no politics on the yard or nothing. So anyway, one day I'm getting home from the little shift, and this is funny thing about prison. You don't get paid nothing, even though they had PIA, but I didn't have enough time to get no PIA job. But put like this, 32 cents an hour is a decent pay number, and I had to work my way up to that. But anyway, I'm getting up off the shift or whatever, and apparently somebody slipped a note to the CO, and a lot of that happened. Cats will snitch on you, people will snitch on you, telling who it was, people hating other groups or whatnot. Again, though, it'd be like that. Could be somebody somebody in your car, but whatever. So I get off the shift, and at this time, my cousin was there. One of my cousins from the hood, and my cousin, he was there for a minute doing a violation. So we was doing a little Pruno thing together, and he the one that told me like, yeah, man, the CO's hit or whatever, and so when the CO get on the shift, he get on the podium, they taking the mail out. So basically when people want to snitch, or they just drop a little kite in that mailbox and the CO see it. So they tell a story like he went, hit the few bunks. This was a bunk. This was, bunk living, dorm living. So he hit a few lockers around my area, then hit mine, then came up with it. And at that time, I had it. I used to keep it tucked. I forget where I had it at. He came up with it. So I ended up getting the 115. Now again, being that I didn't get halftime, So so all right. Let me explain this. Now, usually when they give you time, they don't necessarily give you time. If you don't know, they take the time that you already accumulated. So being that I didn't get half time, they couldn't take my time, because if they take your time, depending on if you got enough time left, you actually got time to get it back. But in my case, they couldn't do that. So my 115, I had to actually wait after my release date and wait for the board to come holler at me. And in the paper it gave me, they said they got up to 45 days after my release date. Now this happened, I probably was maybe 90 days to the house. So I had to wait. So I got the 115 or whatever. So, I'm mad as hell. Somebody told, somebody hating. But it don't matter. And I was doing a lot of scrambling at that time in jail because, again, it ain't nothing to do. So you really, you can play dominoes, do nothing all day, cards. And I did all that too. Gamble, get high or whatever. And that's the type of activity that can get you in a wreck. Or, some people work out. Some people do a little of this. Some people read. Some people write. Some people draw. Everything is a hustle. But again, so the day I was supposed to get released come and go. So now I got the paperwork, and it was me. It was another cat from the town, and I think it was a Wood. We all was waiting for the same thing. So the day finally come, and we waiting. No, matter of fact, the 45th day come and leave, so they ain't even come holler. So now we tripping. We trying to, hollering at Lieutenant Sergeant like, hey man, can y'all tap in and see what's up? Hey, we can't do nothing. Y'all just here. Just gotta wait. So now I'm tripping. So finally they come holler at us. It's only like 53 days after. So they come. I forget who they call in first, but I just remember my turn. So come in. It was happened to be a brother in there. He give his introduction, who he is or whatever, blah blah. Then so before we get to start, I guess what they call adjudicating, I break out the paper and say, hey, it say y'all had 45 days. This 53 days, and we didn't even count weekends. We count all business days. He was like, hold on. He made a call right in front of me, said something, whoop, whoop. Then he was like, well, I gotta let him go then. And that's how I got out that thing. This was DVI, and it's funny because they rushed me. I didn't get released, of course, that day, but they did rush me up out of there. They got me through R&R pretty quick when I finally did go. I think it was like that next morning or whatever. They rushed me up out of there. Of course, we took me back to the unit, get my little stuff or what I was taking, and me, I'm leaving with all kind of stuff, books, letters. I still got. I may got my dress out box from back then, y'all. I ain't gonna tell y'all how long ago this was, like 20 years ago. But anyway, so it's funny because when I get released, I'm going through R&R. It's a brother in there. I guess he was on he may have been in the ranch. Cause he wasn't in H unit, because we got to see a lot of the H unit guys. So anyway, my dress out outfit was blue. He was Crip, and he was like, what's up, bro? I see you got that blue on you, what I mean? I'm like, yeah, for sure. Then, put it on. He's like, oh, where you from? I'm like, I'm from Oakland. He's like, oh, you can just see how he was disappointed. You know what I'm saying? It was just funny on the side note. I started laughing at him, but we started chopping it up, though. He was from Bakersfield, I think. I forgot brother's name. But he was cool, though. So anyway, that's how I got out of the DVI on my last time going to state prison. Again, like I said, I did 2 other state bids, but it wasn't in the state facility, and this was the notorious DVI. And it's just funny to think how they was really kidnapping a lot of guys, a lot of us back then, on these violations, to where the courts, the real legal judicial system, had no knowledge of your so-called infraction or whatever. So when you go appeal and file these certain paperwork and writs, supposedly fighting your case, it was nothing. So they had to redo all that, and that was kind of like the start of the whole Valdivia versus Schwarzenegger, or Davis to Schwarzenegger, and then they did the 33%. I don't know where they at now. If y'all know, y'all can let me know in the comments. But once again, this was Bad News Brown, breaking stuff down real quick one time, freestyling for y'all. Go ahead and hit that like or dislike. Please subscribe. I'm going to be back at y'all again with some more with it. Talk to me, y'all talk back.